What's going on, man? Back with another podcast. I'm Jeremiah again.
I'm Gabe.
Just welcome to the I'm Just Saying podcast.
Welcome
Podcast for the
back.
men's basketball team. How you feeling, Gabe? First week of classes.
Feeling good. Yeah, took a couple games off, not on purpose, but like I said, school just started, so it is
Yeah,
what it is. You got to get back into it. So we got a couple games
yeah, got
to
three.
make up. Yeah, got a couple games since the last time we've been on, and I'm excited to get right into it.
We can jump right into it. I think the last game, well, going into the last game that we previewed was a Georgia game. If you remember, what do you
hmm
think about it?
Dominant, really. It is weird because a lot of that happened. We won a big game at home, lost a close game on the road, and then won a big game on at home again in the last time I've been here. So I got some interesting thoughts, some stuff to consider. Of course, we were taking notes. Georgia was good. Um, we jumped out to well, that's a lie. It was rather sloppy to begin with.
Yeah,
I
the
had
first half,
written
definitely.
yeah, I had written that Tennessee was shooting 25% from the field through 12 minutes, so obviously not very good. We were right. If people remember, we were right about our prediction for Stone, Darzon Dubar, with the Texas game when we said all we needed from him was like 10 to 13 points and some solid defense and rebounding, and that's exactly what he did against Texas and won. So then I guess we were trying to ride, or I was trying to ride a hot hand and see if I could guess the next player, and I predicted that Felix was going to jump out and have a pretty
Yeah,
big
you
game,
did. You
and
definitely did. I remember that.
he did not really, and I don't know if that was by design from Georgia. I really couldn't tell, or if that was just him not getting started. I just thought it was just because they were so physical of a team and like to play down low. I naturally assumed that we were going to want to put him low to try to keep him involved defensively, which he didn't do bad at all, but it's not what I thought it would be. Nothing crazy as far as the block go. And then I thought we were going to do that kind of OP, which we'll talk about more in the Vanderbilt game, that kind of OP lob from Zakai to Felix, and I thought they were going to eat him up inside there. And they didn't, and that's fine. But second half on, they rallied, they pulled away, and it just went from there. You can kind of explain a little more.
Yeah, I think ever since I've been a Tennessee fan, I guess, a junior or whatever, Tennessee has a bad tendency of playing down the competition, but they also rise to the occasion when they play really good teams. So I don't
I would
really understand
agree.
why it's a problem. But yeah, you definitely saw that theme like occur when the first half because it was sloppy for both teams. I think the score was like 26-25 at halftime. Georgia with like a 1 point lead and stuff like that. I don't know. This is Tennessee has always had that problem since I've been watching Tennessee basketball. But like you said, came out in the second half, guns firing, man.
Yeah.
I think they went on like a 26-4 run out of halftime. Also, like it was really crazy. They were forcing a lot of turnovers. Like the Bulldogs had 19 total turnovers for the game. So that was something that was really like eye opening because like why didn't the team do that in the first half? And then I remember I texted you. I was like, Zakai is playing like a top 3 point guard in the
Yeah,
country, and that was
yeah,
really one of those good.
yeah. To start the second
Uh,
half,
yeah,
you're right. To start the second half, he had three pointers in 3 minutes, and then I'd written in the first between like minutes. I'd written between like minutes 15 and
yeah,
12 of the or 12 and 15 of the second half. Tennessee went on 19-3 run.
yeah,
I read that they gave up a 9 run to Georgia, so honestly, it was another one of those things where it might have even looked a little bit closer than it ended up being because they took pretty good care of them in that second half. And I mentioned to go back towards because in the first half, uh, yeah, I had mentioned that Felix had only attempted one shot through 15 minutes, and that's
yeah,
probably and it was missed. So he was 0 for 1 through 15 minutes. That's definitely a problem. I wrote that in my notes. It said Chaz's first bucket came with 53 seconds left in the first half. That's a problem. Um, that would foreshadow the problems that they would experience on Saturday, and then to further foreshadow, I had for the half, Tennessee was 9 of 33 from the field, 2 of 15 from three, 4 of 4 from the free throw line, but so was Georgia. I guess the difference was Georgia had 9 turnovers at the time. Tennessee had 5, so they were able to kind of do it, narrowly out rebound them.
yeah,
And then the big one, speaking of physicality, and this is where all the bigs I thought played well. In the first half, the offensive rebounding differential was 12-6. So their you're doubling their offensive rebounds. You're getting more possessions, and I think that's where a lot of it went.
Yeah, just going back on to Zakai, man. Yeah, he has these great games where it's like, okay, when Zakai is on fire, then the team can't be stopped. If Zakai is having a really great game, like it looks like it, you would think it would be like that for your leading scorer because Chad averages like a little under 20, but realistically, when Zakai is having a really great game, Tennessee is really hard to beat. He had 16 points, 7 assists, and he ended up breaking Santiago Vescovi's
All
steal
time,
record.
all time steal
Record
leader.
by 3. He had a game high 6 steals and was like that was a crazy. Like he was that second half run by Zakai was really good. And also wanted to point out how we talked about one of the previous pods of if Tennessee can get 20 plus from the bench, and the bench scored 29 points. Jordan Gainey had a game high 19 on 50% shooting, and sophomore forward K Phillips finished with 10 on 5 or 6 shooting. So that was a pretty good. Okay, Tennessee had okay. We got a formula. We know our starters can have good games, even though Chaz didn't have a good game, which he had been struggling. That was his third game in a row struggling, shooting from the field or whatever. But we know that, oh yeah, last year transfer senior guard, Jordan Gainey, he can get us some points. Kay Phillips should come in and play some good minutes when Akpar is in foul trouble or he just doesn't look good, so we're gonna sit him down, let Kay bring some energy off the bench. Like you said exactly what you said. It definitely worked when Tennessee does that, had really good games.
Yeah, and before we get into Saturday's game, because I think this will become very relevant, is I think Jordan Gainey in that game did exactly what he was supposed to do, exactly what he needed to, and that's like the perfect Jordan Gainey performance you're going to get out of him. I think the problems lie when he in particular, I'm not trying to call him out, but he in particular might do too much, which I think might have occurred on last Saturday. I was in Nashville. I know you were watching, but we were Tennessee did fall to a 1 point loss, very narrowly, uh, at the in Nashville to Vanderbilt. And I'm very interested in your thoughts on this game because it kind of swayed a lot of different directions. And to be honest, my own opinion of the team changed a bunch throughout the course of this game alone. It was a very telling. But I want to hear what you have to think. What you have to say.
Yeah, again, like when I remember when you were in Nashville and I had texted you the whole Zakai's playing like a top 3 guard in the country. I feel like that was when my idea of the team switched as well. Because I feel like before that it was like, okay, Chaz has to have a good game for the team to win. Chaz had to have a good game for the team to win. But you can clearly see the difference in I don't know like if Tennessee does like I mean if college does like advanced stats or whatever, like how the NBA does with when LeBron James is on the court versus when he's off. But like it's that type of influence. It's that type of like clear difference when Zakai is on the court and when Zakai is off the court. They played a really great game when Zakai was on the court. Had an early lead, 7.7 to 5 to 7 points. He got 2 fouls and I think he had 2 fouls with like 8 minutes left in the second, and Tennessee looked like a terrible team. They looked like a terrible team without Zakai. Um, Chaz can't get the open looks because he has to be more on ball. Jordan Gainey is not much of the facilitator that Zakai Ziegler is. So the team just looks really, they just look out of sort. Like there's no secondary ball handler.
Yeah, and
I don't understand why Zakai plays so many. Because I used to always wonder, why does Zakai always play that many minutes? And you just clearly, I think Rick Barnes understands it. Assistant coaches understand like we have to have Zakai on the floor for this team to be an effective team in the
I
top country.
Yeah, I agree, and not in a bad way. Sometimes I think a player hold is so good, or at least so important to a team that they might hold said team back. I don't believe that that's the role that Sakai's in. I agree with Sakai, or what I said about like Jordan Gainey. I think also applies to Sakai on the offensive end. And I was talking to a guy, Rick, the sports director over at WVLT, the CBS affiliate here. We were just talking last night on the court, and I was telling him I was like, I don't like seeing I don't think this team goes far if Sakai is your second leading scorer. I don't think this team goes far if Jordan Gainey is playing 30 minutes and not scoring double-digit points, or even really just playing 30 minutes and scoring a lot of points. I'm sorry, but like I don't see this team going far doing that kind of stuff. The problem is that you have these two guards who aren't, I don't think, not meant to carry the team. Because really, when I told you somebody else has to step up, even Chaz didn't have a bad game. I think there were parts of this game he tried to force a little bit, especially there at the end, that last play that they drew up to try to win the game. They got the ball back, and he was trying to tie the game up, and they gave him the ball and they drew it up. But the problem was, and I'm getting off side tangent, but the problem with that I had a problem with was, one, Vanderbilt had been in foul trouble, and the refs had been pretty liberal with the whistle at that point. And then two, Felix was your leading scorer, all on like dunks, like 8 dunks, like 6 lobs between Zakai and Felix, and it was automatic. And there was, it was there every time. Vanderbilt had nobody there that could get up high enough to contest him. And so I'm speculating, but I'm thinking maybe, or I feared that they tried to force that shot because it's Chaz, and they're never going to say this, but because it's Chaz and because it's his hometown. And so what would be the coolest thing for him to do? Well, get the game-winning basket, at his hometown with 4 seconds left. But he goes up. It's just a weak attempt. It really is. So the guy had it on the inbound. They took it and he drove it around to the right. Never really had an attacking angle to it. Not a real drive. It was always the guy stayed on him. They forced him into. It was his dominant hand, but it wasn't. It was weak. And it goes out, and they were blessed with a free throw attempt later. But before Chaz even gets a chance to make the first free throw and miss the other, I, for the life of me, don't understand. I mean, I do, because it's the hometown thing and they wanted to do it. I don't know why you didn't drop a play to get Felix another lob. They didn't do anything to stop it. Or, like I said, they were in the bonus. It's going to be too automatic. Why didn't you drop a play that you knew would force a, you know what I mean? Because everybody has those plays. Like you do have those plays where it's like, hey, this is either going to get us a good look at the rim, or at the very least, we're probably going to force a foul. And they didn't try any of those. I thought it was a weak attempt on the last shot there, not going to lie. I was hoping, and it's not even anything against Chaz. Like, I'm not saying Chaz can't be the guy to take the last shot. I'm saying the setup I didn't like.
Yeah, I didn't really like the whole. I expected, especially because of the timeout call, you expect like a really good play, and it was like 11 seconds on the clock when he got the ball, and like everybody just cleared out. It was just a straight
I
one-on-one
did, yeah, and
isolation.
that looked on purpose. Like he was trying to have his moment again,
Yeah,
not in a bad way, but like that just they might have drew it up for him on purpose to let him have the moment. Not only because of his hometown, but it's because he is the leading scorer, and maybe that's just what not just the hometown. Maybe that was just what he needed to get his swagger all the way back, because they have some like game winning thing. But yeah, and going back to my original point, because of that and because of how they looked just right before, I have lamented for a couple seasons now that the over reliance on Zakai to create all your plays because it happened 2 years ago when Zakai tore his ACL against Arkansas. We did really well, and then we went to the tournament. We were able to do okay, but not as much as we could have, because Zakai went with injury, and he was taking all our plays, and all of a sudden Santi got thrown back into the role of point guard, which he hadn't played in a few seasons, and it just didn't flow. And then last year, again, when Zakai wasn't the one facilitating or getting other people buckets other than Dalton Connect, nobody else was being able to create their own shot. And it's still the case now. And even Chaz isn't always on. So when Chaz isn't on, then it feels like nobody's creating their own shot, especially when you, in my opinion, like I said, I don't want to see Zakai. It's just my opinion, but I don't want to see Zakai being the second leading scorer. I don't think Jordan Gainey should be coming off the bench just getting your second leading scorer. You want to try. I'm thinking for long term, because these games come and go. Everybody knows conference is going to be tough. Tennessee didn't even drop in the polls after losing to Vanderbilt. So I think even the voters have said, have implied the same thing. You get a blowout, win at home, and 1 point loss on the road. It kind of evens out. But for long term, because this team has its eyes set on a SEC championship, on a national championship, I'm thinking, guys like Ecor, guys like D-Stone, like those need to be your second and third leading scorers. I think Zakai is at his best when he can purely facilitate and play defense. So if Zakai's getting you like 10 points and 8 assists and 2 steals, that is a perfect Zakai Ziegler stat line. That's what he wants. Jordan Gainey coming off the bench and maybe lighting you up and getting, hitting and knocking down a 3 or 2 and 13 points on okay efficiency, that's what you need from him. I don't want to see Jordan Gainey playing 30 plus minutes. Jordan Gainey played 30 plus minutes. And at one point in the fourth quarter, I think to start the fourth quarter, I wrote down he was 1 for 6 and had played 30 plus minutes in the game. Was really, honestly, he had one really great steal like on the inbound, which was perfect. But outside of that, had kind of been getting cooked on defense. His other 5 misses were, in my opinion, not great shots. A lot of them were forced. A lot of times he wouldn't get. He was out there and it wasn't tempting shots because he would let the shot clock roll down too long and then pass out. And then Zakai is having to take a last second three, which I think has been a problem the last 2 games, by the way, is letting teams get you down the shot clock with the last couple of seconds. And I'm sure you noticed it yesterday too. Uh, and then meanwhile, D Stone on the bench played 7 minutes. And then you ask him at the end, I was in the post game. You ask him at the end of the post game, and coach just says, we went out there and he was trying to force shots and no, so we dropped, we benched him. And I could definitely understand it. You go out there. He did the same thing yesterday, to be honest with you. He got a little more minutes, but D Stone did go out yesterday and go like 1 for 5, and that's like 4 pretty lackluster 3-point attempts that all fell short. So I get it. You don't want to maybe keep him in there and let him suffer when you have something in there with Gainey. You've seen him do it. It's just good enough. But I think sooner rather than later, thinking about that loss, they're going to have to get D Stone back involved like he was in Texas. They're going to have to get Igor to I know that this isn't even coaching. I know that they're begging him. I don't know if it's still conference play and just a bigger atmosphere and the games are bigger and they're on national TV every week, but I know they're begging Igor to shoot the ball.
Yeah, I was watching the game. I'm like, man, why is D Stone not playing? Like,
7 minutes.
You would think, like you said, big frame, 6'8", 18 points last year, Hofstra, 50, 40, 90 guy. Okay. Of course, like you said, lackluster shots, bad attempts aren't like what we're looking for. However, why doesn't he have design plays for him if you recruited him because of his scoring ability and his size? So that's a point where I was like, come on, Coach Barnes, like if you don't want him being the one that forces shots, then give him something besides
Exactly.
just motion offense,
I think you can't let him and again, I'm not Rick Barnes, but like I don't think you could let these because he's complained about it several times. At several media availabilities, several post games, they'll ask about him. He's like, well, he say he passed up a shot. And then the next game he took the shot, but they were bad shots. So we benched him and he made a mistake and we benched him. And so he's playing 7 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 8 minutes. Every time I look, it's 5 minutes, 7 minutes. You know what I mean? And he's never going to get out of it if you don't play him more. I don't think there's an excuse to play Jordan Gainey 30 plus minutes when he's also only shooting like 22%. Like if Jordan Gainey is shooting 22% from the field on and not providing you much defense, I'm putting D Stone in because at least his big frame might, because they did get hurt on the boards. So I'm at least putting. I didn't understand that really and truly. Other times I get it. Again, yesterday they tried to, and I think he forced it a little bit, but he has to force it. He knows he's only getting a couple minutes at a time to prove he can stay in the game longer. And so he's like, dang, I need to hit a quick 3 or something like that, or take a shot or impress coach or do something to try to earn my keep around here. Because if I make a mistake, he's going to. So it's like if I do nothing, he's going to bench me. If I do too much, he's going to bench me. And so I understand he's probably in a tough spot right now. And I don't think they're really giving him any favors. I think one of these games, they really are just going to have to let him play it out. Seriously. Give him 20 plus minutes of real sets, draw up plays, get screens, high ball screen to get him around. So he's not forcing, a bad catch and shoot 3. Let him dribble into a shot. Let him feel comfortable,
Yeah, and you will, like Coach Caldwell does for the ladies, like bro, like you're gonna have more emphatic and more energized plays when you give your starters rest. Chaz can't play 30 minutes. Zakai can't play 37 minutes. Like, of course he's like, I mean, he might have to, but like you said, Gainey can't play 30 minutes. Like, you have to play your guys,
you can't
especially
have
when
6 guys
you're
playing
down to,
30 minutes.
that's what I'm saying. Like, you're already down to non-scholarship players and you only use 7 of them, really. So you have to play these guys because in these deep leagues, when you play Auburn and you play Kentucky and you play the Floridas, like They have guys on the bench that come in and play valuable 12 to 15 minutes to give these stars rest, man. That's just something that you
And
have
those,
to do.
you're 100% right. And we've talked about this before. Just you and I, like off record. Where those are just what championship teams are made of. Are the 10 to 15 minute guys, but who can give you the most quality 10 to 15 minutes that you can possibly have. And I think D Stone could really be that way for Chaz.
Me
And I
too.
honestly think he would open a lot for Chaz because their scoring is so similar. Not exactly, but their score. But I still firmly believe that D Stone can make every shot that Chaz can make. I think you try everything, because even if you don't want them at the same time, which I think would be cool if you can maybe find a way to get them, because I can't even remember the last time we had two wings that can make their own shot. If you could find a way to do that, we're talking about a whole different team. But even as is, if you want to try to make a real push, I think you need to be able to coach D Stone up to a point where you can sit Chaz for a couple of minutes and not have to worry, and you can still drop the same plays, but for Dubar, and he's maybe it's not quite as efficient, but he's still keep it afloat for 7 minutes, like a 5 minute stretch, 4 minute stretch, just give Chaz like 4 straight minutes to sit on the bench while D Stone holds it down, and you can put him back in and then take him out, and then he plays 3 more minutes, and then you know what I mean, and the next thing you know, he's got 12 to 15 quality minutes of play, not 7 whatever minutes of play.
Yeah, but to not just stay on the negative side, pretty positive things that I did see from the game was the fight. Um, down 12, 3 minutes left, you thinking the game is over, but they somehow, I guess, Coach Barnes press the ball, which he probably should have done early in the second half, like with 5 to 6 minutes left instead of waiting 3 minutes. But started to press the ball, create turnovers, cut the lead, 12-point lead to two in under 3 minutes. So that was a pretty positive thing for me. Another positive thing for me, very balanced scoring. Four players had 16 plus. Chaz led with 17. Felix had, like you said, he had 16. Igor had 16. He was a big part of that second half run. Zakai had 16 and 10, so he recorded a double-double, and Chaz ended up finding a shooting stroke again after struggling for a long time. He led the team with 17, and he shot like 5 of 11, 4 for 6 from three.
Not bad.
The
Yeah,
team
bad game.
shot 48% from three. So they're making big shots. And no matter how the game looked, I think Tennessee did lose a physical battle, like when it came to rebounding the points in the paint, especially when those old boy like Vanderbilt would have some really timely offensive rebounds that, like, if Tennessee got those, were able to run, things would have changed the game. The game would have probably changed a little bit earlier. But I mean, the stats were nearly identical. They shot almost about the same percentage. Um, the Commodores are rebounding Tennessee 29 and 25 and outscored them in the paint 34 to 28. But like though that gap isn't too wide, even though Coach Barnes does stress a lot, man. You have to win these games in the tough. This is the toughest league in the country. To win those games, you have to win the physical battle. So you have to win those. You have to win the rebound battle. You have to win the points in the paint battle. But I mean, besides that, Tennessee did a great job. Felix is going crazy right now when it comes to blocks. And we talked about that preseason, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's going to jump at everything.
Yeah, rim protector.
Really had the problem with goaltends, but he's really been timing his jumps. I think he has like a couple games in a row with three or more blocks, or he has 11 blocks in the course of 3 to 4 games or something like that. But yeah, those are pretty positive things I got from Vanderbilt besides like what we think should happen.
I agree. The biggest one that I wrote down was I mean, really and truly, because you only lose the game by 1 point, it used the margins for error so small. So it usually is, sometimes the ball just goes the tips different way. And for me, a lot of that was Vandy shot 40+% from three. Tennessee has been holding everybody to under 28%. That was the most the team has shot on them all season long. So that was their best 3 point. That was the best a team has shot from them from three this season. And when you do have a game this with the margin so small, that is going to be the difference. So you got to maintain. I mean, and that's, like I said, easier said than done. But you got to maintain that strength of yours, because if that can be consistent, then it does allow for some other pitfalls in other places. Because if you don't, then you got to make it up from other places, right? But I agree. As far as them winning, I do think that was the key and probably the main factor. And I agree with you 100%. The reason I said my feelings on this team and kind of switched is because we started the game. We looked good. We looked decent. It looked sloppy, but Tennessee likes to play the first half kind of sloppy. I wasn't too worried about it. Second half, and it goes on 12-0 run. They start the half with 4-3. So I'm like, I was pretty upset. The team gets down 15. I'm thinking to myself, this team, I literally my friend texted me, he was upset. And I texted, I was like, this team just never knows how to win, how to lose gracefully, is what I said. Because, the Florida loss was so bad and so ugly and so out of hand. And I'm sitting here thinking this is about to get out of hand. I think they were up 15 at one point. It's almost 16. I was sitting here like, dang, I mean, this is ugly. And that's why I said, Tennessee just doesn't know how to lose gracefully. And then I ate my words because 3 minutes left. Literally, I'm up in the press box. 3 minutes left, 12-point game. Other Vanderbilt media people are closing up shop and closing their laptop, flipping up their backpacks. They're getting ready to head down to the press conference. And of course, the Tennessee didn't win, but they were right there. I mean, they were one free throw away from sitting it in overtime. And so I think that was also really telling for how this team might play later on in the season, is that they will show a lot of fight and double digit lead, 10, 2+ minutes. That's fine. They're ready to hang. They're gonna press. They're gonna make the shots. And what I love, I almost forgot about this. This is what I love the most. Actually, I almost forgave the loss entirely because of this. Those last 2 minutes, Tennessee did not shoot a three. All right, they not shot a three, but they didn't make a three, and I love that. That was all. Like if you looked at because I was watching the stat broadcasting, and it was like 2, Jazz Lanier 2, Jordan Gady 2, Sky Ziegler 2, Felix 2. I love it because there was 2 minutes left, and it feels like in today's basketball, it feels like almost every other team in the nation is like, we got to get it all back at once. We got to get 3 threes in 30 seconds, 3 threes and 3 chips. Now it's a tie ball game. We got like a minute and a half. Like every other team is going to want to do that. We have been guilty, or Tennessee has been guilty of doing that so many times before. It is my least favorite thing in basketball. And they were patient. They had 3 minutes left. They were like, you know what? 3 minutes, that's like, we can work out 5 to 6 possessions. We can get 2 points. We can score, get a stop, score, get a stop, score. Find the twos where it's theirs, find the open shot, or just find those. I think they might have attempted a 3 and just missed it, but it's fine. They were taking the shots that were there, and they were giving what Vanderbilt was giving to them, and they chipped away at that lead. And I actually thought that was perfect, and that is quality coaching. I will admit, that is quality coaching because, again, an undisciplined team would have proceeded to go 0 of 8 from 3 in the last 3 minutes and balloon it to a 20-point loss. You know what I mean? Because they'd have to send it to the free throw line a bunch of times. So I love that. That was great. And I think they carried that same discipline into last night. Talk about Mississippi State.
Yeah, I love the first half. Huge fan in the first half. You could tell Chaz found the shooting stroke again. He came out, hit 2 timely threes. 8-0. It was 8-0, and then Mississippi State called a timeout. So I'm looking like, oh, it's gonna be one of those games. Chaz shoots pretty well here. He knows the rim, and then you got the crowd behind you. So with the Tennessee 3, like that's big for them. So I really loved the first half, and I kind of turned it off when I saw Mississippi State was struggling to score. I think it was a pretty good bounce back game for, like you said, Tennessee defense. That was the highest against Vanderbilt. They gave up the most points they had ever given up with 76, and they gave up the best shooting or whatever. But I think Tennessee bounced back defensively. The first 8 minutes saw Mississippi State only score 16 points. They were 6 of 27 from the field and 3 of 15 from 3. They turned the ball over like 8 times as well, and that was pretty big because Mississippi State averages around 83 points a game.
High scoring team.
Scored 56, I believe.
It's important to note this team. Important to note this team beat us twice last year. The only team.
They were the only team that Tennessee did not.
Pretty commandedly, they did not play well either one of those games, and so it wasn't one of those things. Again, speaking back to how the team bounces back, I know it's a different team, different players, but Barnes and maybe the program itself, how do you bounce back with a team? Were they going to come to Knoxville and it was going to be like, okay, does Mississippi State have their number, or was it going to be like, nah, we're going to get ours back? And they got theirs back, and I loved every bit of it.
Yeah, you can definitely, but like going back to what I said earlier, you can definitely tell Tennessee rises to the occasion when they play good teams. They don't when they play bad teams. Yep. So hopefully, Rick Barnes is able to turn around. Hey guys, we have to play well no matter who we play. If we're playing, I'm trying to think of the worst team in the SEC. South Carolina, who's 0-6 in SEC play this season.
Arkansas again.
We're playing Auburn in this upcoming game. We have to play the best Tennessee basketball that we play, no matter who the opponent is. So if they can carry that first half along and all, and, you know, start off that way each game, that was beautiful. The only thing that I did not like was that the fact that usually Tennessee is a second half team instead of a first half team, but now it was kind of flipped. Tennessee was a first half team this game and really struggled coming out of halftime.
Looked a little lax. Looked a little
Yeah,
lax.
they let
Coach
Mississippi
mentioned
State
it.
come out on a run, stuff like that. I think Mississippi State was on a 15-2 run
They
until
outscored us in the second half.
crazy. Yeah, it was until a crazy 30 by Felix Okpara to beat the buzzer.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. They
I
did.
think
Mississippi
they were on
State
a
did.
15-2 run, so I don't know. That was just bad to me.
Yeah, to give the final. It was 68-56. That I will admit, and I think the people in the building will admit that game probably was similar to Georgia, even more out of hand than it appeared. It's like, what is it, a 12-point 12-point win. Yeah, they were able to get some free throws and some late threes there at the end. It was pretty much, going between 16 and 18 points, like 16 and 20 points throughout. Like, it was well a 20-point lead for like the last third of that game, and Mississippi State was able to hit a couple threes, hit a couple free throws to kind of make it look not as quite as bad. Like I said, same thing. First half was great. I saw that Mississippi State was shooting 8% through 8 minutes. They were like 1 for 6 or something like that. There at one point, yeah, I saw Zakai again playing at an elite level. He ended up stealing the ball in 4 Mississippi State possessions, so he was able to get the ball or affected it. I think not all steals. One of them might have been a tip, but they were all great. And then I saw so Josh Hubbard, like one of the leading scorers in the SEC, their team's leading scorer, didn't score for the first 12 minutes, and so you're keeping a guy like that scoreless. It's the same thing as when other teams look to keep Chaz scoreless. So whenever they were able to do that. Yeah, and then I had Chaz at the end of the first half, 14 points on 5 of 9 shooting. Perfect. You know what I mean? In the game of 23 points, that's perfect. That's exactly what you want. And you are right. They came out of the half, or again, Matthews and Hubbard both at the half, 6 points, 2 of 9 shooting. When you keep those guys essentially off the board, you've done your part. But yeah, came out the second half, looked very sloppy. I mean, he looked kind of lax, looked like they were comfortable with their lead, and they probably shouldn't have been. And what I was in the press conference at the end, and what Rick had said was, you can't give a team like that a lifeline. You give a team like that a lifeline, they're going to take it, because at the end of the day, Rick admitted this, and I texted you this during the game, and Rick admitted this. Admittedly, Mississippi State missed shots that they would have otherwise made, and it's not necessarily, and that's just the honest truth of it. It wasn't necessarily a defensive thing from the Vols or like a defensive effect from the Vols. There were threes that they would normally make that they didn't make. There was just sometimes, I think it is just a real thing. I think it happened in Vanderbilt, it happened here. Sometimes the ball bounces the wrong way, and I think a lot of that happened for them. But the defensive plan and then said execution of that defensive plan, the whatever kind of scout they were looking at, and in video, film, I thought they did perfect, and I think they should be commended because they did force guys like Matthews and Hubbard into really tough shots. I thought Sakai and Jeremiah was forcing Matthews into some really uncomfortable looking shots, and sometimes he's on and makes those, but when he's not making them and you're still forcing him to take them, I thought it was great. He did not get too many good looks, and I was really happy to see that, because even if he's a smaller guy going forward, you are going to run into those real big bucket getters that have been a bit of a kryptonite for Tennessee in the tournament in the past. I thought they played great. Felix played another great game. And we joked, yeah, they were coming back. They're on like a 15-2 run, and then the shot clock was right now. We had one shot clock violation, unacceptable. We had another where Felix had to throw it up because they gave it to him last minute, bad. And then they had another one, again, this has been happening, they need to fix it, but another one. And for some unexplicable reason, I don't remember if it was Chaz or if it was Jordan Gainey, dishes it out.
I'm pretty sure it was Gainey.
You think it was Gainey? Dishes it out to Felix with 1 second left on the clock, kind of like a suicide ball, like in football, where the quarterback is about to get sacked and he pitches it forward to his running back to get blown up. And that's what I'm thinking. I was like, you're leaving this man out to try. And they pitches it out to Felix, and he knocks down the three. And I wrote down in my notes, I was like, it's the funniest, most unexpected morale booster I've ever seen in my life. You've never, you just don't game for it because it does hype the team up. It looked kind of quiet. TBA, Food City Center, was kind of quiet coming out of the half. I don't know. Everybody just got lax, both the fans and the team. We were like, okay, we're just probably going to cruise to the rest of this one. And they started to score little points. And then for some reason, Felix makes the shot. Tennessee goes on a 7-0 run. And then Jeremiah proceeds to hit 2 threes, two big threes, especially that big corner one. Again, they went on like a slight run. They got like 4 real quick points. They got another stop. And then Jeremiah hits a corner three again. And it just, that was like the last. I think they got it right under single digits. They're like 7 points. Yeah, they got it right to 7 points. It's like, 7 points. They get the ball back, hit 3, it's 4 points. That's a 2-possession game. See what happens. And then Jeremiah steps up, hits a 3. Later on, hits another 3, and it really kind of puts him away. I thought it was great stuff from all of them.
Yeah, and I just the seeing Jeremiah hit those 2 threes just reminded me of what I talked about in the preseason, the preview, saying, bro, like, all you have to do take 2 to 3 a game, hit one.
And then they gotta respect it.
Yes, just make the team like, because I forgot what game I was. I think it was against Florida. I don't know. It was one. I think it was either the Loss versus Florida,
or he played 30 minutes and scored 0 points against Florida.
Yeah, like, you have to make the guys guard you to open up things for Chaz, because when they can be physical with Chaz, because Rick Barnes always alludes to Chaz is not used to this. Is a new lead. This is still something new for him. He hasn't played this physical before. When you're trying to get Chaz open, man, you have to be a threat. Oh, we can't just leave him open and sit paint, or
of course you can't tag off him, and people have done that.
You have to be able to take 2 a game, just hit 1 wide open. When you can do that, that opens up things for the offense. And that's just something that I really love, seeing him go 2 for 2 wide open corner shots. And he didn't hesitate on those, They were really good quality shots. So, and if he can continue to hit those, then I think Tennessee's in pretty good shape. I really like what I saw from Chaz, having 23. He shot 47% from the field, 42% from 3. He looked really comfortable shooting, you know what I'm saying? Tennessee has to get him going offensively if they want to beat these good teams coming up, And that leads me into this Auburn matchup that we're going to talk about. You want to say anything about that?
Yes, sir. I think this concludes our recap from the final or the previous 3 games, but stay tuned, because in the latter half of this podcast, we are going to be talking to our what would you even call it? Like a sister pod? Like for churches, like if you have sister churches. But it would be Auburn, Field of 68's Auburn podcast, straight out the jungle, with Vince and JoJo is her name. Two a great podcast with two great co-hosts. And I reached out to them, asked them if they'd like to come on and kind of preview their team and let us know what's up. I figure we can be the experts on Tennessee, but they would be the ultimate experts on Auburn Tigers basketball. And so I hope it's a good one, and I hope we can get some good conversation going. But stay tuned.
All right, man. We're back with the second part that we promised you all on the first end. But now we got our special guest from the Straight Outta the Jungle Auburn podcast. I'm gonna let them introduce themselves. They're great people in the world of sports.
Hey everyone, I'm JoJo Kavanaugh. I am the co-host of Auburn's Field of 68 podcast, Straight Out the Jungle. I am a senior at Auburn studying sports production journalism. I am sports producer at our student-run TV station, Eagle Eye, which Vince is the host of the show that I produce. I intern at Auburn's NIL collective On to Victory. I work for Auburn's student newspaper, The Plainsman, and then I also was the Charles Barkley intern this summer at TNT Sports, and now I'm the co-host of Straight Out the Jungle. So love sports, huge fan of football, basketball, as you can see, Knicks fan, Jets fan, and then a Yankee fan. But now I'm going to turn it over to my co-host, Vince.
Couldn't get any worse in the world of pro sports than those 3 teams. Just kidding. Hello, everybody. My name is Vince Wolfram. Similar to JoJo, I'm a senior at Auburn in our journalism sports production program. As well, I am the co-host of the Straight Out of the Jungle podcast with the Field of 68. I've had a blast covering Auburn basketball and the SEC this entire basketball season. But a little bit about me. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I work at WOKY CBS TV, which is the CBS affiliate in Louisville, as a sports anchor, reporter, and producer. I'm also the co-host of the Big Talk podcast with Auburn men's basketball center Dylan Cardwell, as well as the host of the Sports Night in Auburn with Eagle Eye TV, Auburn student-run news station, where I'm also the creative director as well. In addition to that, I'm a ClassCast student influencer and Adobe student ambassador. So a lot on our plates, but we love hoops, so we're here to talk it. We can't wait to get going with you guys.
Perfect. And if you don't mind starting off, I was thinking about like the good way to like spark conversation. And number one thing I was thinking was, I think a lot of times, especially for people like us and everybody who works a beat, you get so like involved in the day-to-day with your team that you almost overanalyze the program like far more than anybody else does. And so I think it's kind of fitting that you guys are our first guests, because we've been the two number one teams since, week 3 or 4. So it's just been Tennessee. Yeah. And so, it was us for 5-6 weeks, and you guys have been on the past couple weeks. So obviously we get moved out of top 5. We have a certain view on our team, but before we share that, as an outsider, as somebody who covers a different team in the SEC, how do you guys see the Tennessee Volunteers, not just this season, but maybe program-wise?
Yeah, I guess first, from December 9th, when Tennessee became number 1 in the country, I think this game has been one that's been circled on the calendars for many college basketball fans, if not all, as tabbed one of the best games of this entire season. But I think, in my view, Tennessee is a team obviously led by Zakai Ziegler and Chaz Lanier. I think Chaz Lanier is an elite level scorer. We saw that against Mississippi State in their last one. The guy was shooting the absolute lights out. Reminds me of like Buddy Hield at Oklahoma. And he doesn't look any bit of 6'4". He plays bigger. Just the way he impacts the game, he impacts it in a major way, but can really, really score the basketball. And Zakai Ziegler, obviously, I know JoJo will talk about him because he's from the same hometown she is, but he's a guy, 7-8 assists a game, really a facilitator, has had great experience in college basketball with so many different elite players. Last year, Dalton Connect, all these great guys that have played with Tennessee over the last couple of years. But the losses, they've been tough. The Florida loss was not a pretty one. The Vanderbilt one was a tough one, tough pill to swallow there in Nashville. But, Tennessee, they're amongst the top teams in the SEC for a reason. Rick Barnes is the real deal.
Yeah, I think this whole center of this team is around the veteran guard, Zakai Ziegler. I'm a fan of him because he's from Long Island, New York. So anytime I see that on an SEC team, I get excited. But I just love the way he plays. Last year with Dalton Connect, this year with Chaz Lanier. Obviously, Chaz Lanier is your leading scorer, averages almost 19 points per game. But Zakai Ziegler leads the team in assists, leads the team in steals. He is the one that facilitates that offense. He is the one, if he does not have a good game, you are not winning. I think that's similar to Denver Jones, who struggled in the Georgia game, and that was why that game was so close. I think those two guys are going to be a huge part of the matchup, Zakai and Denver, whether they're offensively or defensively. But I think the whole team really just is surrounded. Zakai Ziegler, he is the center of that team. So he's the one that Auburn is going to need to lock down.
Yeah, for sure. I tell Gabe all the time, man, this team we're nothing without Zakai, man. And it sounds so crazy because like you have a top 3 scorer in the SEC on your team, like you said, Chaz is averaging almost 19. But if Chaz is having a good game and Zakai is not, then the Vols are going to struggle. But if Zakai is having a great game, then the Vols seem like they're once again that top team in the country. So it's really like eye-opening when I see that thing. And even I think Rick Barnes understands that too, because he said, did you see the I don't know if you saw it today, Gabe, but he had the I forgot what it's called, but it was like some opening like conference or whatever with the balls and stuff. He said he don't
yeah, he did that little luncheon thing that they do.
He said he don't know what he would be doing without Zakai right now. And this just shows you like how much he trusts in him and how much like faith that he has in Zakai to show up night in and night out. And that's really why he plays the amount of minutes that he plays.
Yeah, and I think it's tough to call it a Zakai Ziegler-less team. Like you don't get Tennessee without Ziegler. You look at the numbers. Lanier doesn't score half the amount of points he does if Zakai Ziegler's not passing the ball. The guy's averaging 8 assists a game for a reason, and the other guy's averaging whatever he is, 18 points a game for a reason. So I think those guys complement each other in such a cool way.
It is true, but Jeremiah and I, and this will segue us perfectly into y'all's injury with your team. We lament, and Zakai's not injured, but we lament anytime that Zakai is off the court, there is such a noticeable lack of production offensively that I think, and not in a bad way, not like in a like, you know, sometimes you have a player on a team who you do feel like is holding the team back because of their usage percentage. I don't think the guy holds the team back in any way. I do think he's the reason for their success. It's just that nobody steps up anytime he steps up off the floor. Exactly what happened. You are down 12 points to Vanderbilt. You come back. Zakai picks up a foul. You don't want to keep him in, you know, too much, let him foul out. So you take him out, and then for 3 minutes you kind of blow it again, and then you bring him back in, and then you get back into the game. But there's just nothing while he's there. And so I was wondering what the difference, like you guys have seen, obviously without Johnny on the floor, y'all haven't skipped a beat. As your best player, your potential national player of the year, and Mississippi State, Georgia were no problem.
That's why this team is so special, is because, like I said, Tennessee surrounds by Zakai Ziegler, and you're the host of your Tennessee podcast, and you made it without Zakai Ziegler. Tennessee kind of flunks, and that's what everyone kind of expected from Auburn. They were like, oh, Janai Broom's out a couple weeks. They're going to lose a couple games. We've still won those 2 SEC games without Janai Broom, and I think that's what makes this team so special. And we've spoken to Chaney Johnson, we spoke to Miles Kelly about how is it so important that everyone is not just stepping up, and it's not just one player. Like Mississippi State, it was Chaney Johnson, Chad Baker-Mazara. Georgia, it was Todd Pettiford, Miles Kelly. Like these different guys are stepping up, and it's because they're not conceited. The chemistry that they have, Chaney called it a brotherhood. They genuinely love hanging out with each other. They love playing it, and also just the respect they have for one another. And they know that it's just, oh, Janai Broom out. It's not my time to shine. It's my time to help lead my team to victory. And I think those are two different things. Is they're not looking for the spotlight. They're looking for their team to have the spotlight to win. So I think that's really important. But yeah, we've seen it throughout these past 2 games without Janai Broom, this team can win, and it's making them better for when Janai Broom comes back, which we don't know. Bruce Pearl said Janai Broom may be practicing today. He may practice tomorrow, so no one really knows. That's still up in the air. But so when Janai Broom comes back, this team is going to be even better. But still, without Janai Broom, we've won 2 games in SEC play. So that's really, I think, what makes this team special.
Yeah, and I guess I'll tell you this too, Gabe. At the beginning of the year, we joked on our podcast that every game was a different guy. Like the opening game, it was Miles Kelly. The next game, it was Chaney Johnson, and then it was Chad Baker-Mazara, and then it was somebody else, Todd Pettiford against Houston. And in every game, like, yes, there was that one breakout guy, but Janai also had 15. So having the rest of the roster step up in an absence of a guy that's scoring 15 to 20 points per game, and like it's kind of no big deal. You had guys step up in every single one of those games. There was an alternative versus Janai Broom every single game. So it's not even just a step up for everybody else. It's kind of just a whole collective group trying to outpour offense and score more points because they lost that 15 to 20 point score. But we also have a lot of guys that can do it too, a mix of Division II guys, a mix of JUCO, mid-major guys, and also 4 and 5 stars. So it's a good mix, a good collective group overall of just different style and different level players that can come in and make differences.
Yeah, Gabe and I talk all the time, man. Like, because Gabe has this reoccurring idea of, man, if the Zakai's our second leading scorer, we're not going to win any games. We're not going to win. and it's really true. And like, I look at Auburn's roster, man. I looked at stats earlier. Y'all have 6 players averaging double digits. Like, what team is going to lose basketball games when like you said, there's a different guy every night? And one of my favorite players, like in all of college basketball, is freshman Todd Pettiford. He just reminds me of really this year's Rob Dillingham that Kentucky had last season. His ability to make tough shots. He's a tough shot taker and a tough shot maker. I've heard Zakai said it about Josh Hubbard last game in Mississippi State, but I feel like that's the real definition of Todd Pettiford. He has freedom like no other freshman I've seen in the country. Like, he takes really tough shots, but he's able to make those tough shots, and I feel like that's what makes Auburn is such a good team. When you have that production off the bench, I think he's a top 2 or top 3 scorer for the team. When you have that production off the bench, it's really hard to beat, man.
And he's never started a game in college.
It's crazy.
Isn't that unreal?
I have a feeling, do you guys think, and have you guys seen maybe the way that Tennessee has exploited the aerial attack with guys like Felix Akpara? And do you worry without Janai on the floor that there might, like, because now, you know, like I said, you beat Mississippi State, you know, they beat Georgia. We just played those 2 teams as well. We also beat those teams by double digits as well. And most of that came from exploiting. They honestly just didn't have the size to, and not even like Zakai would always just throw it up. Again, Zakai being the playmaker he is, would always just throw it up to a place where only Felix can get it. And do you think, you know, obviously offensively, there hasn't been much, much setback without Broom. But now do you think defensively you might see a weakness there? Or just what do you guys think they plan on doing?
Yeah, I think from the big man perspective, at least, Dylan Cardwell, who started every game so far for Auburn this season, has stepped up in a huge way. And while it might not seem it in the stats, we talk about this on our show. You might not see it in the points, but I mean, even last game, he had 2 points and 7 rebounds, 4 of which were offensive. So he makes such a big difference. And in my opinion, he's one of the best perimeter defenders from a big man position that can play any player 1 through 5 and stick with them. So I don't think on defense it's going to be as much of a thing, but it's more the supporting cast who can help him on the defensive rebounds, offensive rebounds, protecting the paint. Guys like Chad Baker-Mazara, guys like Miles Kelly, they're really going to have to step up. They're going to have to crash the boards. And they're going to have to get in there and put a little elbow grease into getting some more rebounds for the Tigers if they want to do this thing.
Yeah, it definitely brings up questions because against Texas, Arthur Kaluma gave us trouble. Against South Carolina, Colin Murray's-Boyle gave us a lot of trouble, and those are 2 big guys. And against Georgia, we looked at Asa Hubbard. We thought he was going to give us trouble. So that's another big thing. It's Auburn and Mississippi State. We crushed them because they are a smaller team. So that kind of is thinking around this Auburn team without Janai Brew when there is, a taller roster and there are bigger guys that Auburn can struggle a little bit. But that's why Miles Kelly, who had a double-double against Mississippi State. That's why Chad Baker-Mazara is going to need to step up defensively. That's why Denver Jones shutting down Zakai Ziegler is so crucial so he doesn't get those assists to the big guy. And then Dylan Cardwell, he's one of the best defensive players in SEC, in college basketball. I may not show offensively sometimes, but if we can get him offensively, I think he had, 18 points against Memphis in the title game in the Maui Invitational. So he has that potential, but still, the way he can block shots against Mississippi State, I think we had 9 or 10 blocks before halftime. So if we are able to get that, especially in the jungle, I think in Neville Arena, that 100% helps the environment, especially defensively. When you have a block shot and the jungle goes crazy. But I think the most important thing is also Jaheim Hudson, who stepped up against Georgia. He had way more minutes. I think he had played 18 minutes. So it's important for all those guys. But like Vince said, Dylan Cardwell is going to be a crucial part of it. And then Denver Jones shutting down Zakai Ziegler. But it is a bit of a question because Auburn has struggled against the bigger guys, but we're hoping the home court advantage can help.
I was wondering because Broom, that's what I was asking because again, going back to your best player, ours Zakai, but he is out rebounding and blocking twice over the next best player, and that's not necessarily production that is just easily stepped right up and filled, especially when you are going to a team like Tennessee, who was number 1, who just 2 games ago, both their big men had combined they both had 16 point each and almost double doubles each, right? And then again, Felix Harpar on the defensive end has had 3 straight games with 3 plus blocks. So I was curious. I think right now, and I'd be interested to see how they game plan for it, but I do think right now it is going to see if Auburn's perimeter can outplay Tennessee's perimeter, because I think Tennessee's perimeter and especially our guard play is kind of lacking if Chaz really isn't scoring and really isn't able to create his own shot. I don't think, and Jeremiah's already said this, I don't like it when you're taking most of your shots from deep. I don't like it when Jordan Gainey off the bench is playing 30 plus minutes. Or is Auburn's big men going to step up and create that difference? And I think we're about to see where the differences are there.
Yeah. Sorry. You go ahead, Jeremiah.
Okay. I think the biggest thing for me with this matchup, going into this matchup, is just really seeing I feel like it's going to be Auburn's best versus Tennessee's best. Auburn, according to Kim Palm, I think Auburn's the number 1 rated efficiency in the nation, and Tennessee is third or second or third in defensive efficiency. So I'm really just wondering to see how does, because Rick Barnes and Bruce Pearl are not strangers to each other. So I'm really wondering how what's the I wish I could have went to practice to ask Rick Barnes this question, but I'm really just wondering what's each other what is the game plan for Bruce Pearl and what is he telling his guys and what is Rick Barnes telling our guys over here? Just really wondering okay, we have to show that our defense is a top 3 defense in the country, or we have to show that our offense is a top 3 offense in the country. And that's just really the biggest eye-opening thing for me. And like Gabe said, just to add to it, the guard play is going to be big, definitely. What can Auburn stop Zakai from penetrating into the paint and getting those wide open looks where he can either float it or lay the ball up, or like you said, throw it over top to Felix and Igor and Cade. And I told Gabe, I think I told him in the pod and off pod, Tennessee has a good and bad tendency. They rise to the occasion against great opponents, and they suck versus bad opponents, like then in matchups they're supposed to win. So I feel like hopefully that continues, that good thing continues where, okay, they rise to the occasion and, okay, this is the number one team in the country. We were just that. So let's play like we were a number one team in the country for 5 consecutive weeks.
Yeah, and I guess a question I have too for you guys is watching somebody like Jordan Gainey, and you look at his numbers. I thought he played pretty well against Mississippi State. I don't mind the 25 minutes if he gives the production like he did, but in the 2 games you guys have lost, he's played not as great as you would like, right? Vanderbilt, he was 1 for 6, played 34 minutes. Florida, he was 1 for 11, played 27 minutes. Now, a guy like him, is that somebody that you think could step up, say, when Ziegler comes out of the game? Is that a guy that you guys trust to come in and do something? Because based off, I guess, numbers and the flow of the game so far in the SEC, he seems to be, I guess, low-key, a pretty key piece.
I think we discussed it. Me and Gabe. I'm sorry, I keep saying like me and Gabe. We discussed, but we do talk Tennessee basketball so much, and we've always talked about for Tennessee to be a successful team. Of course, like Chaz is gonna have to get going early. Zakai's gonna have to get going, penetrating the paint. But for Tennessee to be a successful team, bench production is probably the most important thing. So those off nights that you said and those losses, when Gainey's not playing well, when he's not scoring, when he's shooting 7 shots, he's 1 for 7 on 0 for 8, like. Those are when you know the offense is really struggling and we're just forcing up shots. But when Gainey's able to come off a pin down and either shoot the 3 or get those reload shots off an offensive rebound by Milicic or Akpara, or even come off a pin down and take one dribble in and shoot those pull-ups, those spot-up looks. When Gainey's able to get going, then I think that opens up the whole offense. Because in the Texas win, Gainey was a big part of when he would penetrate the defense in Darlington. We really love and would love to see him play more. Darlington Dubar will be wide open on the wing for easy knockdown shots when his feet are set and stuff like that. And also, like I said, off the bench, Cade Phillips, sophomore, really been stepping up for us because JP Estrella was out with a foot injury for the whole season. So really been stepping up, coming in with high energy. He's been in foul trouble for a little bit, but he's coming in with high energy and ready to rebound and ready to, like I said, catch those alley-oops from Zakai.
My thing with Jordan Gainey, and I agree with Jeremiah, we have said bench production is going to be very key, especially against Auburn, because you guys are much, much deeper than ours. We have, I think, 3 players at the moment averaging well over 30 minutes a game. I don't think you guys have any. We need somebody off the bench to step up. My opinion is that if it's Jordan Gainey, that's fine. But I don't like seeing Jordan Gainey being the second or third leading scorer. I think it's not the best sign, at least. He's averaging over 10 points a game, like 11 points a game. And it's fine. He can't both shoot 42% from the field and average 1 assist. I think when Zakai does it, it's a different thing because, one, most of his shots are threes because he's so short. He's not banging in and pulling up mid-rangers or anything like that. So he is taking a lot of threes. And so his shot percentage, over the year is more reflective of like if he's just shooting pure threes, which he didn't seem to get better at, but still. He averages so much of everywhere else with his assists and his steals and in the non-tangibles, him diving on the floor for a ball and him just rallying up the team, and his passion is just the stuff that you can't. And again, Jordan Gainey is good, and he's been a great player for the program. But there's one player that most people don't know about. He's only averaging like 4 points and like a couple of rebounds, maybe 2 rebounds, and that's Darlington Dubar, who is our Hofstra transfer that we got. And he, Jeremiah and I talked when him and Chaz both came. They were basically like 1A, 1B, kind of pick your poison. They were both more or less averaging the same points, 25 and 5 at their respective schools. North Florida for Chaz, and then Hofstra for D-Stone, and then Darlington. He's big. He's like 6'7", 6'8", very strong, very stout, and so he actually adds a lot of defensive potential that I don't think Chaz has. And I've said this before on this pod, is that I think he can make every single shot that Chaz makes. Every time you see him, hit those threes or drive in and do a reverse layup, I think D-Stone can make every single shot. And for some reason, he has not been able to put it together except in spurts. He had a great game against Texas. That's why we won. He's had good games elsewhere, and then he, it no-shows. And so I think the key actually is to somehow get him involved. Again, Jordan Gainey being productive is important, and you definitely need that scoring production. But I think this team is going to be at its best once they're able to figure out D-Stone, and then Igor Milicic is who I think needs to be the second lead scorer. You want to give Chaz the ball. You want him to get out of this slump he's kind of been in a little bit. But actually, our big man Igor, especially in this game, with some injuries to Auburn, is where he's going to need to actually make his name.
Yeah, but I see we're running out of time, so I do want to ask both of you. So, what are your? I'm not a big prediction guy because I mean I write articles and stuff. I have to like get predictions, but I'm really bad at that. It never goes the way I think it's supposed to go. But like predictions, what are you looking forward to? What do you think Auburn can do to win? What do you think Tennessee can do to win? I'm just trying to see what y'all think.
I think for Tennessee to win, Chaz Lanier and Zakai Ziegler, I think they have to have good games. I do think you need to have someone off the bench produce when you won against a good Illinois team. Gainey had 23 points. I don't think if all of your starting line, like if they all play good, there has to be someone on the bench that steps up because Auburn is so deep. And it may be Chaney Johnson's night, it may be Tahad Pettiford night, maybe Chad Bacon-Mazzara. So that's because Auburn is so deep. And I think for Auburn to win, like I said last week against Georgia, Chad Bacon-Mazzara had 3 points in the first half. That cannot happen. If Auburn wants to win this game, Chad Bacon-Mazzara has to score more than 3 points in the first half. Chaney Johnson only had 2 points throughout the whole game against Georgia. That 100% cannot happen, especially if Janiyah Broome does not play. And then Denver Jones. Denver Jones did not really have a good game against Georgia either. And then Miles Kelly, there was quick little plays where Auburn, there was turnovers in Georgia that I didn't like. So hopefully they clean those up. But for Auburn to win, I think the three guys that did not have good games against Georgia need to have good games against Tennessee, which I think is very possible because those are the type of guys that do not have two bad games in a row. And I think Dylan Carville needs to have like a block party. And also the jungle is going to be on fire. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Neville Arena, but Auburn's #1 in the country. College game day is coming. Pearlville will be out tomorrow morning, Saturday morning. So I think just overall for Tennessee to have a good game, I don't know. I know you guys may not like Gainey, but someone on the bench has to step up. And for Auburn to win, we need to have the guys that had bad games against Georgia step up. But also, I think a big crucial part is shutting down Zakai Ziegler. We'll see if that happens. But even if that doesn't, I still think Tennessee needs someone else to step up besides Chaz Lanier and Zakai Ziegler.
Yeah, and I think for me, if Tennessee wants to win, they're going to have to get production from guys like Gainey, guys like Mashack. Mashack I thought played fantastic against Mississippi State. That's somebody who I think could give you 5 to 10 points every night. Realistically, he could stand in the corner and shoot, get to his mid-range spots and make shots. He gives some fire to that offense, especially like Gabe was saying earlier, like when Ziegler's out of the game, get somebody else like that in and get them the ball and get them going. So I think Tennessee will need a couple guys off the bench to really get going. I think you need a big game, at least a handful of big shots from Chaz Lanier. And I think you get that consistency from the point guard, the veteran. I think you need that. And for him to get his teammates involved, get the bigs involved, try to attack Auburn in the ways that they know they can with Janiyah Broome out. And for Auburn, I think it's if they stay hot, if they get 4 or 5 guys in double figures and win the offensive rebounding battle, I think that will probably decide the game. I think the battle of the boards will be a huge thing, especially without Broome. The amount of points off turnovers, I think, will be huge. To basically minimize mistakes, get rebounds, and if you can score points off them, the better. So and whoever wins that battle, in my opinion, will probably walk out of Neville Arena with a win. And while I think it will be Auburn, I am going to make a little prediction there just because they've been hot. Tennessee is they've struggled they haven't found their motor yet offensively. They haven't found their medium. And when they do find it, which I'm pretty positive that they will, because I feel like they're right there, that's when their tick will really start going. And Tennessee will they're dangerous right now, but they'll become scary when that happens.
I completely agree with both of you guys. I think the little padlock stack for anybody who watches Josh Pate at the end of this game, if you showed me the offensive rebounds after the end of this game, I bet I can tell you who wins. I completely agree also with you, JoJo. Tennessee has struggled on the road. They have struggled on the road under Rick Barnes. They've struggled on the road this year. I don't know if the jungle is going to make that any better, and I don't know if they turn that around, if Auburn is the place for them to turn it around. I am going to be honest. No predictions because Jeremiah knows my stance on predictions. I just don't like them. But
sorry.
I welcome predictions. I just hate them for myself. But I don't mind saying I don't know if Auburn and if the jungle is going to be the place for them to turn that around. And like I said, I think you're going to be able to tell by who won the boards who's going to win this game. I definitely appreciate you guys coming on, though. It was really nice having you on. I hope for the sake of both of our teams, though, really and truly, I hope Auburn plays their best, and I hope we bring our best, because I think both of our teams want to go deep into the postseason, and it's not going to help any one of us out if either one of us comes in and lays an egg for some reason. That's one, for entertainment value, but two, I want Auburn to play their absolute best, and I want Tennessee to play their absolute best. I think it'll be a great test of Titans there. Jeremiah, if you guys, anyone have anything else to share, I think we had a really great conversation.
Yeah, that was awesome. JoJo and I know both really appreciate you guys allowing us to jump on, talk ball. That's what we do. So we love it. And we appreciate you guys for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you.
Well,